Thanks, Vicki. So, yeah, thinking about working with our colleagues, and that's an important thing to consider. So, for the panel, then, where have you found good support in school and outside of school? I suppose where have you found good colleagues and made connections?
I think it's the best support I've had is obviously your mentors, heads of department, experienced colleagues, and science department, of course, the science technicians. They can support you with experiments. They can come up with some more fascinating experiments because they've got so much experience over the years. So they just form the main sort of support for all the teachers, not just like subject knowledge wise, experiment wise, but emotionally as well, I would say. To be honest, when you're finding it difficult in a particular subject area, always seek out support from your experienced colleagues who have got the expertise in the department, and that really helps you. And they will give you useful tips that it will help you all throughout your teaching career.
Great advice, Brotati. Thank you. I think I remember one time I had not been in a school very long and had put a science display up in the hall. And then I came in the morning and the head teacher had left me a note on the desk, a post-it note saying how brilliant it was and grateful he was for me being there. And it just made such a massive difference, that positive feedback. So I think that message is to, yes, hopefully look out for the colleagues who are going to do that for you, but also to do it for other people, be that colleague. I think that's important too. Even though you're going to be new to the school, be the supportive colleague. Any other thoughts from anyone else about going to get support?
Yeah, I would just say about teaching assistants as well. I was a teaching assistant before I was a teacher, but you know they're with you generally. They're with you or there's someone in the class with you a lot of the time, and they're massive support and they want to support you. So really, you know, when I went into year 6, I was in year 6 for 4 years, and the first year when I got there, I did not know exactly what I was doing, but the teaching assistant had been there for many years in year 6, and she was really open to giving me advice and pointing me in the right direction so I could help myself to make sure I was doing what I should be doing. So value them and, you know, be kind to them and they will be kind back, and they're an amazing resource.
Such good advice, Kate, and that preparing them for what you're teaching beforehand means that they're that extra adult who knows what the content of the lesson is about is invaluable. Mark, over to you.
Yeah, it's been mentioned in the chat about technicians who are in secondary, they are the oil that makes the machine work. But it's also that recognition that just about every conversation we have as teachers are learning experiences and they are supportive. Every person in that building has been through what you're going to go through or are going through at the moment, and they do understand. And the fact that they're teachers, they are empathetic. That in 30 odd years, I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of teachers I've met who haven't been supportive. So I think it's worth being honest. What I'd also say about that thing around colleagues and at the beginning, I don't think you need to necessarily keep your cards close to your chest. You know, play the long game here. Teaching, you're going to be in this career hopefully a very long time, and that by being open and talking to people, you're not exposing yourself to ridicule. You're not making yourself look weak or in any way, shape or form. And actually seeking that support is not only important for you, but it demonstrates that you value your colleagues as well. When I was in the earlier years of my career, actually having people ask me, how should I teach forces was marvelous. I was actually really grateful to other teachers coming to me. So yeah, foster good relationships with your colleagues. Approach them; they'll be happy to open up.
Thank you, Mark. Excellent. What feedback have you had? What gems of wisdom and support have you had that stuck in your mind over the years? There's a bit of overlap with what we've what we heard from for the first slide, I think. But what really important advice have you been given and feedback from colleagues?
I'm going to jump in on this one because I think as a first year teacher, it can be really hard when, if you have the opportunity to go in before summer and you go in and you observe everyone else and you think, oh my God, I've got all of this to live up to. And my school we're a small school, 1 form entry, and we have a very open door policy. Our head and deputies just kind of wander in and out and don't expect the children to acknowledge them at all. And at the end of my second week of teaching, one of my deputies came to me and said, I love that you teach as you and not as anyone else. And I really think that's important. Be the teacher that you want to be. Don't necessarily try to emulate someone else because it might not work for you. I've got some amazing colleagues, but I know that I can't teach the way they teach. I've got to teach the way that I teach, and that works for me and it works for my classes. And it was just really nice to have that acknowledged from someone that I really respect.
Sounds like you work for a very great person. What a wonderful thing to say. I think that's so true. Elaine, did you want to add to that? I can see you got your mic off.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, be yourself. You can ask people for advice, but also you can offer advice as an older teacher. I would go to the newer members of staff to ask them how to do things that are new that maybe they learned at university that I don't have that experience in. It works both ways, and they will be grateful for your advice as well, and that's how you make friends.
So true. So true. Mark's touched on this when you're trying to focus on the positive and others around you might not be. I think that's becoming ever more rare, which is great because people are so dedicated in teaching. But if that does happen, how have you approached that about maintaining focusing on the positive if other people are not necessarily doing so? And I suppose we could be extending that to other adults, not just colleagues.
David, if I could just chip in there, sorry folks, if I'm monopolising any of this. When I was working at the IOP and coaching on a programme called Future Physics Leaders, I found that I was working with some early career teachers who were struggling, and we came up with a plan where I asked them to write down and reflect on only positives. And because a couple of them were struggling, they were some challenging schools, I got them to get themselves a nice fancy hardback notebook and every week write down something that they were proud of that went well. I got them to analyse it. Why did it work well? And then over the course of the year, this book built. And yes, we do need to reflect on things at times that don't go well, but actually not at the expense of those positives. So I encouraged quite a disciplined practice to not necessarily ignore the bad stuff, but very much to focus on good stuff and learn from it and then try to spread those messages. So it was trying to create that own personal atmosphere of stuff going well.
I love that, Mark. I think that's brilliant. Reminds me of somebody gave me a gift in lockdown, focusing on 3 good things that happened each day. It sounds like it's similar. Focusing on the positive really, really does help. And actually writing it down really reinforces that, doesn't it? I think, Carole, did you have your hand up? I think you did.
Yeah, I was about to say something that was very similar, but essentially in my training year and when I was an ECT, I had like a journal I had to reflect on every week. And it was a really challenging time. And so something that I started to do was just try and write down every week something good in my journal. I didn't have an extra thing to lose, but I knew where my journal was in there. I just wrote in the margin, smiley face every time, like something made me smile. Because your brain is wired to focus on the negative to learn not to experience that again. And so every time there was a negative, I'd be like, okay, can I think of something positive that also happened today? Even if it was sunny today, or like, I got all the equipment back in, just like taking those little small wins. And then at the end of the week, be like, actually, there were a lot of nice things and I'm not just focusing on the negatives.
Wonderful. Sounds like something we could do as well with ourselves and our colleagues, do with our pupils and children too.
Yeah,
Jade,
absolutely.
sorry.
Um,
Jade?
yeah, very similarly as well, just when it comes to the children, I think it can be really hard sometimes when you do your handover at the end of the year. Quite often the teacher handing over to you is tired and it's after school, and they might just focus on all the negatives and they'll just kind of trauma dump on you. And I think it's really important to respect what your colleague says, but also maybe ignore some of it. My class last year, when they came up to me for transition, they had a really, really bad reputation as being a really difficult to teach class full of children that had really bad behaviour issues. And they've been my absolute favourite class that I've taught. And I think it's just really important to form your own opinions of children, because your relationship with them will be completely different to their relationship with a different teacher. And if you start out with a negative, it's only going to build a negative. If you start out with a positive, you're more likely to snowball into more and more positives. And as I said, they came up to me with a terrible reputation, and they've been my absolute favourite class. And it wasn't an easy year because I was pregnant and very, very sick. And I can't imagine having taught another class during that time, because they just made my life so easy.
Wow. And a lot probably because you got to know them and they respected you, and you took, like you said, you taught as yourself. How brilliant. Kate, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, that's really good, Jade. Totally agree. And I just think, yeah, you've got to be kind to yourself and, not be so hard on yourself, and just, like we're saying, focus on the positive, because I don't do very well if there's a lot of negativity. And sometimes if there is a lot of negativity, you have to sometimes kind of detach yourself a bit from that and focus on you and what you're doing. And, something doesn't, we're all learners, aren't we? All the time still. I'm still learning every day. And we learn sometimes by going wrong. That's just the nature of learning. And it's just being reflective, dusting yourself off a bit, and then having another go, and just, but be kind to yourself. Definitely. It's really important.
Absolutely. I'm learning some new things today. I've learned a few new phrases, one being trauma dump, which is great. So let's end this section off with, what's a team effort or collaboration you've been especially proud of?
David, could we just go to Brotati? Because Brotati's been very kind in joining us before she's actually going off on a school trip. So maybe if you lead on this, and then any top tips you'd like to leave us with before you disappear.
I always believe in be positive like a proton. So I put that on the board with a big smiley. So whenever it's tough, something like Mold's calculations they start off with and they're finding it difficult, they always say we have to be positive like a proton. So same applies to us, I think. We're always learning, as you just mentioned. And it's nice to have a what went well, and even better if for ourselves. And we always focus on the what went well, more what went well than even better if. Where we had a team effort, a collaboration, we're always doing that. But one that was really nice was when we had collaboration between maths department and science department. So we followed a bit of the guidelines of the ASC publication of how to improve math skills across. So we actually went ahead and did that, followed those guidelines, and we saw improvement in the math skills. So we aligned our curriculum, the maths and the science department, where all the teachers worked together whenever we had time, and HODs, obviously, we worked together as well, and it showed progress across science and maths. So that was very rewarding. GCSE results improved. So that was one team effort that was really, really nice. Even like a corridor chat with a colleague. Okay, this is a particular skill that wasn't working well, and now it's improving across, whether it's fractions, ratios, etc. So that was really nice. And also, in my previous school, it was an IB school. So we used to have interdisciplinary units across English department, maths department, science, PE. So lots of team effort, and you learn so much, different techniques that teachers are using. So team collaboration is very good for both staff and the pupils see it as well. It's such a nice way to enrich the environment of the school. So yes, so these were one of our good points in team collaboration. Yes. So I think I'm going to leave you to it because I've got to go now on my trip. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Brotati.
so
Have a great
much.
trip. Yeah, enjoy the trip.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Does anybody else want to add to that, a team collaboration that you've been especially proud of in your experience? Jay's got a mic off. Off you go, Jay.
Yeah, I can jump in. In my first year, one of the things I was really interested in doing coming out of COVID was rebuilding links with the community, because those had kind of been lost during all the lockdowns, and I was new to the area. So it was kind of like a double thing for me. I wanted to get to know the community, but I wanted to get the school re-involved in the community. And one of the things that I found was going on was at the Christmas light switch on, they were inviting choirs to come and perform. And I collaborated with our year 3 teacher. As I said, we're one form entry, so it was 60 kids together. We learnt a load of Christmas songs in English, Spanish and signing. And we performed at the Christmas light switch on. It went really well. Obviously, I was a nervous wreck the whole time. And that was the Friday. And I came into school on the Monday to an email saying that the mayor enjoyed our performance so much. Could we please come and perform in the church for his Christmas service? Obviously, these people don't know how schools work because we had a week's notice and it was at 6:30. But we managed to pull it together. We got half the amount of kids there, and they were at the front of the church doing what they were doing, and I was at the back signing Little Donkey frantically to make sure that they remembered what they were supposed to be doing. And all I could see was all the people in the congregation just looking at each other and being amazed that A, the children were signing, and B, when they started singing in Spanish, they were all looking at each other as if to be like, what's going on? These are like little children. And we've now been invited every year since to sing at the Christmas light switch on. They just put us on the roster and email us in November to let us know that they want us to come. And even without me being there this year, it's continued, and something I'm just really proud of and really enjoyed.